Hey, welcome to BACKtalk, the premier podcast from Successful Black Parenting Magazine, featuring in depth conversations and expert insights on crucial topics for the Black family. Ranked one of the top 4 Black family podcasts on FeedSpot. I'm your host, Janice Robinson Celeste. Now, have you ever wondered if your child's school is truly the best fit for them, or if there's something better out there that could unlock their full potential? Let's stay tuned because you're going to find out today. Here we go.
This is BACKtalk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine, the most listened to podcast for parents by parents.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to BACKtalk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine, your go-to podcast talk show for parents. Now, I need a little favor from all of you fabulous listeners out there. Go ahead and spread the word about our show. This means we are live. If you're hearing me right now, we are live. And you can post questions under this video in the comment section, and I'll answer them live on air, but you make sure you do it early. Tell your friends, shout it out to your followers because sharing is truly caring. And don't forget to use hashtag BACKtalk when you post. You can listen to this at work. Just put your, AirPods in or your little, whatever you have, earphones, what I have. Listen and check us out. Make sure you tell other people to listen while you're doing that. Today, we have Dr. Toscha Dickerson. She knows all about schools. She is a superintendent. So we're going to bring her on. Dr. Dickerson, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Can you start by telling us a little bit about your journey, how you became a superintendent of Rève Preparatory Charter School? Is that how you say it? Or is it Rève?
It's Rève.
Rève. Oh, it's too easy. It was too easy. Okay.
It's fancy.
Right? I'm trying to make it even more fancy. Rève. Okay, Rève.
I like that.
Rève. And you're an author, so tell people about that.
So my background has always been a little bit of education and procurement and contract, supply chain management. I've been an assistant professor for over 7 years, and I'm one of the founding board members of Rève Preparatory Charter School. And so we've been in existence now going on our 6th year. And the reason I'm now the superintendent is our former founder and superintendent, she stepped down when she became ill. And I took the board voted me in, and she recently passed in January of this year.
Okay, well, I want to know. Sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
No,
I'm sorry.
no. And so that's my journey. I've been with the school since its inception, just looking at it as an idea on a piece of paper. And here we are 6 years later.
That's fantastic. We have some people watching live. You can ask questions. If you have any questions about charter schools, magnet schools, public schools, private schools, this is your chance to get that question answered. So, Dr. Dickerson, what motivated you to focus on alternative education options, and how has this shaped your approach as a school leader, particularly?
Mm-hmm. So what motivated me is that we, and I say we, meaning myself, the founder, and the other board members, we felt it was a need in underserved communities for parents to have an alternative, a different choice, rather than the school that they're zoned to in their community. And so we wanted to make that difference. We wanted to bring options of education and teaching our kids in different ways. We wanted our parents to have that choice. For me as a parent, my daughter has always gone to charter schools.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I've chosen charter schools is because I like the family feel of a charter school. I love that it's a small classroom size, and she's always done well in charter schools. And so it shaped my thinking, because being a parent who has a child that goes to charter schools and then owning a charter school, I knew the exact things that I liked and what I wanted other parents to feel as myself as a parent.
Okay. So what are the biggest differences between public, private, charter, and magnet schools that parents of color particularly should know about?
Excuse me. So I would say the biggest difference for me when we're looking at a public school as far as the ISDs in your district and a charter school, we would look at classroom sizes. I know some of the ISDs within our district, you would have maybe 45 kids in one classroom, whereas here in our charter school, you're looking at maybe 15 to 25 students in one classroom. And the reason being, we keep it small because we want the personable experience. We want each child to feel like they're being heard. We want each teacher to know the students by name. We want the parents to know the students and the administrators. So we keep the classroom small. Another difference would be specialty. What is it that you're looking for that you want your child to engage in? I know for my daughter, she's always loved singing. She always loved the art. So any school that I would look for, it had to have an arts or a theater program because that's what I wanted for her. So for any parents who's looking to make that decision, what is it that you want your child to learn? Here at Rev Prep, we have a STEM curriculum. So we're getting kids involved in STEM and making sure that they understand what is that, how do we operate in that. We also have Spanish for all. You want your child to start learning a different language at an early age. So these are some of the things you look at schools and you try to compare. Well, does my local ISD have this? Well, if not, what about charter schools? What about private schools? Private schools is different from all of these because you have to pay a tuition. Charter schools are not private funded. We are open to the public. So that's the difference when you're looking at what decision should I make for my child.
Okay. All right. And what are some of the misconceptions parents may have about alternative education like charter schools?
I think when we've met with parents, charter schools have all, parents have always told us we thought charter schools was private. We thought
Mm.
we needed to have money and pay a tuition, and you guys select who you want to come in, and that's not true. That is a misconception. Charter schools are open to the public. We do not take any tuition. We do have a lottery because it's a certain amount of students that we will accept again because we would prefer to have small class sizes. And so that is a very misconception. If you have a charter school in your area and you want to know about, please reach out to the administrator, reach out to the principal, get on their website, look at what they have to offer. But they are open to the public, they are free.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, what do you think about the argument that charter schools take away money from public schools, right? Because that's been the controversial point that has come up on many occasions, and that instead of fixing what's wrong with the old, we're starting
Mhm.
something new, even though charter schools have been around for a long time.
For a long time. So here's the thing, when I hear that, what do you mean take away the money? Because charter schools are not funded at the same pricing and rate as our ISDs. We get far less funding, far less money from the state than our regular schools. So what we're doing in the charter school world is we're fundraising and we're doing things on our own because we do not get the funding from the state as much as the regular ISDs do. Now, as far as taking the students away, I don't like to say we're taking the students away. We are actually giving parents an alternative choice. And the reason for that is because if you have your students in the regular ISD in that district, it's cookie cutter. They have a handbook, they have a manual that they have to follow, and they cannot deviate from teaching your students from that way. Charter schools have more leeway. If we know that your student is learning by dancing and singing, guess what? Our teachers are going to dance and sing with your student to make sure they get that information. So we have more leeway to teach and to make sure our curriculum is still state standards, still approved. We have to do the state testing and all of the assessments, but the way we give the information to our students, that's on us. So
Okay.
that is the big difference. We're not taking it away. We're just giving your kids an alternative of how they learn because every student learns differently. And so if you're sitting in a classroom and you're teaching all 50 students the same way, little Johnny may not be getting it. So he may need to be pulled to the side and worked separately, and you may not get that in the larger ISDs.
So you mentioned ISD a few times. Can you explain to the audience what that means?
So ISDs is an independent school district. So wherever you live, you have ISDs, which means that's your local school district in your area.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what advice do you have for parents trying to decide which type of school is best for their child? I know you mentioned that talent was important.
Hmm. Talent is very important. I will look at what is it that your child excels in. Some kids academically excels well. They can go to any school and they do well. So if it's not academically that you're looking at, look at extracurricular activities because there's more to life than just academics. I like a well-rounded person. And so look at the extracurricular activities. What is it that the schools offer? Are there any programs, STEM programs? Are there any sports, theater and arts? What type of programs does that school offer for your child to be able to excel even better if it's academically? So there are so many different things that you can look at when you're researching the schools, but you have to know your child and sit down with them to see what is it that you're interested in as a parent. And then you sought after, reach out to the different schools, go on their website, do a meet and greet. We do that all the time. Um, we have availability to do tours. If a parent is interested, coming to Rev Prep, before you fill out any paperwork, reach out to us. We're going to do a tour. We're going to tell you about our history, tell you what we offer, because we want you to make the best decision for you and your family.
I love that. And you said that you guys have small classrooms too. So I
Yes,
think that's a benefit, especially if your child needs that. They need more one-on-one kind of
exactly.
attention. They don't do well. They get lost in a huge classroom. Or I think
Yes,
you might have a child who might be slightly neurodivergent. That
that's
you
right.
know maybe even
That's
have
right.
ADHD. I think that's great. And one thing I've noticed a lot of times with different charter schools, some of the classes are like I want to say open classrooms where they are learning project based learning,
Yes,
right?
it's very hands-on,
Yeah.
very hands-on. And so that's something I wanted to instill in our kids here. When we have opened our new building here at Rev Prep, I have the old science lab, right? No other school district or other charter schools have the old science lab, but that's how I learned when I was in school, right? You put on the goggles, you get in front of the sink, and you cut open the frog, right? So we're teaching our children that in kindergarten. They get to get a jelly, they have a jelly frog and they say, hey, I know what this looks like, but they're starting early. I didn't get to do that until I was in high school. So
Right.
opening our kids up to something different at an early age is what's going to spark their interest. And hey, I never thought about that. I may want to be a scientist now. So you have to start them early.
All right. Well, how can parents of color, because we have this misconception that
Hmm.
parents of color are not involved in their schools, not involved. They don't come to you know
Parent teacher
open
meetings.
houses. Yeah,
Yeah,
and what the public doesn't understand, that's on both sides. That's white, black, Hispanic.
that's
However,
correct.
we have a lot of times we have single moms who are working two jobs. We have two parent
That's
homes. We have a
right.
lot of two parent homes, more,
Yeah.
and you know, they can't, they're working. So it's difficult.
Hmm.
It can be difficult. But we have FaceTime, we have all kinds of things that we can connect with Zoom and with parents to make it easier for them to be involved than it
Right.
used to be. So, but how
Yeah.
can parents of color become strong advocates for their children within the school system? No matter
I
if
would,
it's private, charter, public,
right, no
whatever.
matter what it is
Mhm.
make sure your teacher and your administrators know that you're there, right? Make sure that they know that your student, your child has a support system because that's all we're looking for. We understand that you may work. We understand you may not come here in person, but the things we do as a school here, we have Class Dojo. That's an application where all parents can sign up and they get all of the information. If you can't be here in person, we're going to make sure we get the information out to you. Read it, sign it, send it back. Because we do understand there are single parent households and they cannot take off to come to everything that we do have. But then we consider too, instead of doing things in the day, we try to give multiple times. Hey, we got open house, we're going to do one in the morning, we're going to do one in the afternoon, we're going to do one in the evening because we understand our kids, especially our Black and brown kids, we have working parents. And so if you can't catch us at 9 or 12, how about at 5 or 6? When you've got no, we have our administrators who are dedicated and we stay over to make sure we're meeting those parents' needs.
Right. And as a former educator who happens to be a
Yeah.
video production teacher, that's me. I made sure our classroom as a high school live streamed every parent event, open house,
Yeah,
type of thing. So that way parents who couldn't get there could see what it was about through our Facebook page. And it was also stored on our website. So they could see
exactly.
what was happening.
Yeah.
We couldn't go to every classroom, of course, but you could see what was going on for as the clubs in the gym or wherever they would have it.
Hmm.
We popped into a couple of teachers' classroom and asked what was most important that parents know. So those are kind of things that schools can also do to
Yeah.
help bring the classroom and the school to the parents when they can't make it.
Right.
But
And just reaching out to your teacher, even if you can't make open house, if you want
mhm.
to schedule some time to talk to the teacher when you're off or when you can, do that. Just let the teacher know that you're there, you're supporting what is it that I need to do, things of that sort to let administrators know that you are aware of what's going on in your child's life.
So we know they can call. What are some
Yeah.
other effective ways parents can engage with the educators and the school leaders to ensure their child's needs are being met?
Oh, now we do. We are very, very strict on making sure our communication is there. So again, through Class Dojo, we have applications, but reaching out through email, through text messaging, we have phone systems to where you need to speak to someone, you can text someone is going to call you back. So we set up meetings for during that time period when you can speak to someone directly. So making sure that you reach out. That's all administrators want to do. We want to make sure that you're there. You know what's going on because we don't want you to wait until the third 9 weeks and say, "Oh, I didn't know little Johnny was failing." Well, we've been reaching out to you for 3 whole semesters and we haven't gotten any feedback from you. That's what we don't want. So we're going to reach out to you in multiple ways to make sure you understand what's going on.
Right. I always recommend that parents come into school and every
Yeah,
time you come in, reintroduce yourself, shake their hand. I am Miles' mother. I'm Marley's
right.
mom, and I just want you to know I'm here if you need me, and just
Yeah,
make sure your presence is known. Um,
exactly. You
it's very
have to make
helpful.
your presence known. Yes, yes,
It actually benefits your child because they're going to remember you, and they're
it
going to
does.
remember this child is involved. The parent is involved, and they care about their child, and it just brings a different message to mind when
Yeah.
teachers think of your child.
That's
Um,
right. And even things like that too, from a standpoint of the school, we do family and community engagement, events like that. What could we do on a Saturday? We know everyone may work Monday through Friday, but those who are off on a Saturday have something at the school for to engage the community and meet the parents.
I love
So
that.
being creative and doing something that we know, okay, if we can't get you here Monday through Friday, then how about Saturday? So doing
Right.
things like that to actually um, encourage our parents to show up and just to come and meet us and let them know that we're working together. We're here to help you to help your student.
Yes, yes. I know some schools have like carnival type fairs on the weekend. They have all kinds of things for school spirits or when the
Exactly.
football team is about to win that you can come out for. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are kind of things you look out for, and they usually are always on the websites, correct?
Correct. Always on the website. We go a step further. We send it home. Um, it could be a flyer just to remind the parents in the book bags. Hey, check your students' book bags. It's on the website, on our Facebook, social media pages, Class Dojo. We're going to find a way for you to say you did not know because it's blasted everywhere. Because we want the engagement. We want the parents to know we're here for you and we're here to help you and your student. So
Okay.
definitely ways.
And we know with today's economy that parents
Yes,
are working themselves to death. So
correct.
we know they have like three jobs, some of them. But what other
Yeah.
challenges do you see parents of color facing when they're trying to advocate for their children? And you've mentioned some great ways of how they can overcome it. But what challenges have you seen besides that?
Challenges, I would say, especially for our Black and Brown students, and this is all students, right?
Hmm.
All students. Since COVID, we've had challenges with students academically. It's not even behavioral. Um, because of COVID and the lack thereof with the information and not being in school, the percentages of our students now are like 2 and 3 years behind grade levels. And that's across all nationalities. But specifically for our Black and Brown students, we're seeing it's hurting us pretty much. It's hurting us. And so what I would encourage our parents, if it's something that the teacher is sending home, if it's an after school program that they're highly recommending that your students partake in, please take them up on it. If it's anything academically and it's free, please ensure you enroll your student because this is something that's hurting us. During COVID, of course, we were out for 2 years, right? And we were
Mhm.
slowly getting back in hybrid, but we could not retain any students regardless of what happened. So now we're in 2024. You may have students that was in what, maybe sixth grade right now that may be on a second grade reading level or a
Wow.
third grade math level. So now what educators are tasked with, we have to now get them up to speed in sixth grade and still try to fill in the gaps from second through fifth that they've already missed. So this is not going to be something just for educators. We're going to need our parents to help as well. And this is across the board, whether you go to a charter school, a magnet school, your regular school districts, this is across the board. The
Wow. Well,
only, yeah, the only, I would say the only school system that don't have to pretty much worry about standardized testing and state scores would be private institutions because they do not have to report back to the state. But any other school system, they are facing this challenge, and we need all of our parents on board to help.
I wonder how that works. So many schools have that grading system from A to D or
Yeah,
F.
yeah,
And how does that affect the school's grade? If
mm,
something out of your control, like
exactly.
COVID hit, and then how are they managing to try to keep that grade up? Because that's been like the number one motivation, well, driving force for most principals.
Yes, that is, and that's the biggest challenge because in addition to us making sure our students have what they need to pass the standardized test, we're also being graded on how the test scores and assessments are. So it puts us in a bind because we're now scrambling with limited funding, trying to figure out how do we fill in the gap. And so I know something here, what we're doing at Rev Prep, we've included uh, what we call blended learning, which means if you're in reading class and we know that you are 2 or 3 grades behind, we're pulling you out individually so you can get that support that you need so we can get you up to speed. We're also offering after school programs. We can't make the parents come, but we're highly recommending that your students stay after school to get additional support. But this is something principals all over are trying to figure out. How do I get my students to this point to pass these state tests and yet have my school rank high enough to pass what we need to do at the school?
Right, right. And we already started before COVID with
Yeah,
the Black Achievement Gap, right? So
yes.
now that was, if you don't know what the Black Achievement Gap was, Black children were not excelling nationwide
Hmm.
as their peers that were white and even Hispanic. Like we had a huge educational gap,
Yeah,
and we've been trying to close that gap. And I know people have been throwing money at it, trying to figure out, what's going on with this gap. And we know that it's multifaceted. It's not one um,
exactly.
piece of of a solution. We have it's multifaceted. So we started with that, and now then with COVID on top, we're
Exactly.
compounded. So what are the subjects? Is it all subjects that we find them behind in? Is it particularly math or
It's
science?
particularly math and reading.
Math and reading.
Reading and math are leading. We're looking at a little science, but you don't test in science until maybe fifth or eighth grade. But definitely reading and math are the highest that are testing below 2 and 3 grade levels.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the parents a little bit. As far as changing schools to try to
Mhm.
help make sure their children are achieving, what are some red flags that parents should watch out for that might indicate it's time to consider changing schools? Like, what should they look for?
So I would say if your student is in a school and you are proactive, you're reaching out to your teacher, to the administrators, and you're not receiving any feedback on how your student is doing, that's a red flag. Because anytime you're being proactive and you're reaching out to the school to find out how can you do better, as a parent, what help can you provide to your student and you're not receiving anything in return, that's a red flag. I would start looking at other options for my student because you don't want to keep your student in a classroom or at a school and they're failing and you're not doing anything about it because nothing is going to change.
Right.
Honestly, nothing is going to change. And so we start that we're in what the fourth week of school. We've been in school for almost a month now. We've already reached out to parents, right? Hey, progress reports are here. We have it's mandatory for my staff here to make 5 phone calls a week to different parents in their classroom to let their parents know how the students are doing. Until you have contacted every parent in that classroom, I need them weekly to understand, hey, Bobby is doing this, Johnny is doing that. So they are aware this is how your student is doing in my classroom. And you need to get those weekly updates so you can make an informed decision if this is the school my student needs to stay at.
No, I said this before on our show, and I'm going to say it every time that teachers, administrators, your salary should at least start at six figures minimum, because you're jumping through hoops. You're
Yeah,
making sure that you not only have to do your regular job of just teaching, you're
yeah,
making sure you're doing they're first of all doing lesson plans on their own time.
yeah,
Secondly, you're reaching out to parents on probably some of their own time. And
yeah.
they have planning periods is never enough. And a lot of times students are needy during your planning periods.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
you really, and then you have to be involved in all the extracurricular activities as a teacher.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you know, 6 figure minimum. Vote for me for president. Make sure your
I
salary.
love it.
We're gonna take some money for the military. They don't need that new tank this year.
Yeah,
Okay, they can
yeah,
wait for the new tank. We're gonna get you guys some salaries. Okay, I mean seriously,
yeah,
being a teacher, I feel for you. So if parents feel their child might be left behind academically or socially, because now we have the Black achievement gap, we have COVID.
yeah.
What should they do?
Reach out. That's
Just keep.
that's that's the only thing. The first thing is reach out. If you feel like your student is behind academically and you need to know what to do, reach out to that teacher first. Reach out. If you don't hear anything from the teacher, reach out to the administrator. Let them know that you're concerned and you need to sit down and talk with them. Look at the strategy. If they don't have a strategy of how we can get Bobby from A to point B, then that's a red flag because there should be a strategy. We meet my school director, he meets weekly with all of the teachers on a strategy of how we're going to get all of our students from point A to point B. That's not even the little 10, 15 minutes that they meet every day trying to figure out this thing. So I would say reach out to the teacher, to the administrator, find out what's the strategy if you feel like your child is not doing well academically, because all schools have to have a strategy. It's a lot of assessments and regulations that we are held to as a standard, so we have to have a strategy of how we're going to get our students over the cross line.
Okay, so parents, you are hearing some very good advice about schools, what you can do. If you're hearing something that your school is not doing, you have every right to go up and say, "Hey, I have some ideas." If there's
Yeah.
a PTA, join it. But go up and say, "Hey, I would like to see if who I can talk to about implementing these
Hmm.
ideas that other schools are doing, and see if
Yeah,
they can work for us." Right?
that's right. Right. Be proactive. Let I would say let your teacher and your school know that you're involved and you care. And we love to see that. We love our parents to come up. We have parents that just brought us food the other day. Right. She was like, "Here, give this to Dr. Dickerson and your staff because I thank you for what you're doing with my son." And I love that because she know her son is one of the difficult ones, but we love him to death. Yes, we do. But it's because she is aware and she appreciates what we're doing for him. And so our kids, especially our black and brown kids, it's not to label them. Sometimes they just need some more love and affection. They
Right.
need that attention. And so they need the people who want to take the time to show them that. And that's what I want everyone to know. For me and what I've received at charter schools, that's what I've received from my daughter. And that's what I want everyone here at Rève Prep and our parents to receive, because we tend to your child and we know them by name. So we know the ones who, okay, he's coming in here today. What's going on? It may be something emotional, but we have the time to sit down and talk to them. That can make a whole difference. And all they want to do is be heard, go back to class, and they're excelling. So
Right.
it's just making sure you have the time and the capacity and you have empathy to show and share with our kids to let them know I care. You may have had a bad night last night. Your parents may have something may have occurred, but to know that they bring that frustration with them to school and it may affect them academically or emotionally. But we need for everyone on board to realize that, hey, I see that Bobby's not having a good day today. Pull him over to the side and let's talk to him.
Right.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Well, that's wonderful. And parents, when you find an administrator or a teacher who knows all of the children's names
Yeah.
and their sisters and brothers and parents' name, that's a keeper. That's a
That,
keeper. I
yes.
just need to tell you that because that's hard to do. And I know how important that is. Now, so they decide to change schools, a parent, right?
Mhm.
How can they support their children emotionally during a school transition? Because, sometimes they're old enough, they don't want to leave their friends, right? So, how
Yes.
can you help with that?
Support them. And I'm speaking from experience because I had to do this with my daughter. She had to switch schools, and it was for the best. She didn't want to leave her friends behind, and she cried, and she did all of that. But in the end, once she got there, she met new friends. What I loved about it, the administrator welcomed her with open arms. We met with the administrator. That's something I'm big on. If I'm going to move my kids to a different school, then I want to meet the administrator of the school. And we sat down and we talked. I told them about the things that I'm looking for, that I would love to see that she gets involved in. How can this school help develop her? And that's something that I did. And now she looks back, and that's the best thing she ever did because she loves it. But for a parent who's looking to move, I would say reach out to the school. Reach out, see if you can speak to someone in the administration office. You want to sit down, you want to get that feel that this is the right move for me and my student. It's nothing wrong with that. Make sure you're comfortable with that. If you feel like you're being ignored and they're not fulfilling the needs that's not the school for you. That's not the school. Parents have to say, if it wasn't for the parents, we would not be in business, right? So you have the say to go in there and request, hey, I want to meet with somebody, I want to sit down and talk to them. I want to make sure this is the right fit for me and my student. And you have the right to do that.
Okay. Now, let's just talk about schools in general. What
Mhm.
can schools do to create a more inclusive and equitable learning environment for students of color, especially knowing we have the Black achievement gap, we had COVID affect them? What can they do?
So I know speaking from experience here at Rève, we do things that encompasses our culture, right? We make sure that if we're going to plan an event that we have the kids help us plan it. Because one thing I've been told from the kids, we hate when adults plan something for us and that's not something we want to do, right? We get more engagement when the kids help us plan because we know it's going to be a big turnout. And so that's what I would encourage any parents. If you have something at the kids' school right now, that's something that they want to do, speak to the administrator. Say, hey, my daughter, my son is interested in bringing this. This is going to bring more inclusiveness. It's going to make them feel like they are a part of the culture. And it's something that they came up with. I know here at Rev, we started a student body council. They love it because now they feel like they have a say in what's going on in the school. They feel included in everything that we're doing. The PTA, the parents come in, they sit down with the students. We have a meeting where you have administrators, parents, staff, all of us are together and we want to hear your input. And so I would encourage schools, make sure you have your parents in on those meetings. Make sure you have some of your students in there on the meetings. When you're making decisions that's going to include them, they should be aware of that.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, what role do charter schools like Rev Preparatory play in advancing educational opportunities for underserved communities?
That is something we're big on because we are a school that's in the underserved community. And so 100% of our kids are underserved. And so we make sure we offer a rigorous academic program. We're focusing on purposeful characteristics And so we make sure our kids receive individualized supports. That's a part of our mission because we know about the gap, we know about COVID. So we make sure that we're pulling our kids out, giving them the support that they need, offering different programs because we've already done the testing. We have the data. And so we know what's going to help and what's going to fill in the gap. We just need our parents to support us. If we're recommending to come to after school programs, sign them up. And we haven't had any issues with that. We have over 90 kids who've already signed up. And so we're excited about that because we let parents know we're here to support you. And we want to make sure our students know you can do it.
Hmm.
Despite what the data says, despite what the state says, we believe in you and we're going to help you achieve it. And so that is something that at Rev Prep, you're going to get that. We're going to make sure you're going to pass and you're going to achieve those goals.
Okay. I had to fix the background. I'm sorry. It just died on us for some reason. Did that last week. We're going to figure out what's going on with that. It ain't supposed to do that. All right. So we got to be professional now. Come on.
Yes.
So, but anyway, we're back. And, you wrote a book. You're an author. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I wrote a book and it's 21 ways, right, of self-discovery. How do you find that? And I think everyone needs that. How do we find out who we are? What person are we? Because with social media and everything that's going on, it's kind of hard to find authentic you. Who are you? And so these are steps to finding that authentic person within you. That's something we preach to our kids. Be you. That person is already taken, right? We want you to show your personality. We want to know who you are individually. And so that's something we encourage our students to understand. Take those steps to becoming who you are. You may not know what you want to do in life, but it's okay. Once you find out what your likes are and who you are as a person, it's going to come to you.
Love that. I love that. Now, what message would you like to leave with parents listening who are concerned about their child's educational future?
Oh, parents, reach out to your schools. I'm telling you, reach out to your schools because I love to hear from my parents. I love to hear their concerns. I love to hear their ideas. Uh, Sign up for the PTA. The more the merrier because we welcome that. We don't have all the answers, right? And we welcome new ideas. Things are changing every day. And so your participation and coming together with your school and collaborating, it's going to be a game changer because when we work together, we can change so much more working together and not against each other. And that's one thing I would tell parents, we're not the bad guys. I promise you we're not. We are not the bad guys, but we would love for you to partner with us and help us in increasing the gap and closing the gap to make sure that our students, especially Black and Brown kids, are receiving the education that they need so they can excel.
Absolutely, and definitely not your enemy. And
No.
I've said this many of time, parents, you are your child's primary
Yes.
educator.
Yes.
You are. And the teacher and the administrators, they are your partners. They're
Yes.
not the primary educators. You
Mhm.
literally are the one that is to teach them everything they need to know in life because they don't get to learn everything they need to know in life at school. That's
That's
only a
right.
small portion.
That's
All
right.
of the rest has to come from you. So if you
Yes.
thought teaching them during COVID and helping them during COVID was tough, you have a lifetime of teaching your child as the first and primary teacher. And all of
That's
these
right.
other people are there to help you along the way.
That's
So
right. And
understand that.
our children model what they see. If they see
Mhm.
you doing it at home, they're going to come to school. And half the times we understand where they get it from because it's from home. But I would tell parents, watch what you say, watch what you do, because your children are watching you. They're watching you.
Absolutely.
Yes. And if
Yes.
if something is sent home, I would encourage parents to sit down, ask your child how was their day. You know, don't just say, oh, we didn't do anything. Trust and believe they did something. They did not go to school the whole day and did nothing. They have homework, they have things that they should do, but it's up to us as parents to make sure that we're asking those questions and ensuring they're doing what they're supposed to do. Because again, we only have a small part in their lives. They're with you, and we're expecting you to support us to make sure they're doing what they need to.
Yes. Yes. And where can our listeners find out more information about your work and Rev Prep Charter School?
So you can follow me on social media. I keep it simple. It's Dr. Toscha Dickerson. RevPrep.org is our website, and RevPrep Panthers. We also have a Facebook page on social media. But you can follow us, email. Hey, we're here, and someone will answer. I guarantee you that.
Dr. Dickerson, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I hope to have you back soon with new information, especially with the beginning of school years. We love to have educators and administrators on.
Thank you.
All right. So, everybody, a big shout out to all of you who tuned in and engaged with us here at BACKtalk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine, the syndicated podcast that is a must for Black parents everywhere. And make sure you follow us on social media. The more you engage, the more we all can thrive. That's why we're here. We're here to help you thrive, but you can also give back by just clicking on things. Click on our social media, click on our website, click on the articles, click on the advertisements. You don't even have to buy anything. Just clicking on them helps us to thrive. All right. So we'll be back again next week with more. And until next time, I wish you all the best and much success. Take care. And thank you for listening, everyone.
This is BACKtalk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine, the most listened to podcast for parents by parents.